for asking.
Absolutely. Okay. You now probably see a little button, I don't know if it's here or there, that says recording. Yes? No?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yep.
I think that's so cool because that way you know that I'm recording.
Yes.
So, hello,
Hi.
and thank you for agreeing to participate in this.
Well, for sure. Thank you for considering me for your research. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. So, my name is Debbie Gombert. We kind of met via email, but
Yeah.
that's different from actually me. Oops. What? Okay. Sorry. Pop-up things on my computer.
No worries. No worries.
So I'm Debbie Gombert. I teach at Eastern Michigan University, and I am working on my PhD at Lesley University.
Mhm.
So that's sort of my context for looking at multiculturalism is I want to know, what are we teaching? What are we really talking about with this? So that's where I'm coming from.
Good deal. Well, I'm Abby. It's nice to meet you face to face. I went to Radford University for my undergraduate. I've been in the field for a little over a year now. I live in Indianapolis right now.
Okay.
I did about a year's work in Medicaid waiver with people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. And recently, about a month ago, actually, I started a job at an autism center. It's a education and therapy center for school-age kids. And so I'm their music therapist on staff there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
In
So
addition,
you're
oh, go
faculty at the school then? I mean, you're one of the staff at the school?
Yes, I am.
That's great.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, I really like it a lot so far. I've only just been there just over a month now, but it's been a really good fit for me so far. So
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I realize I say good because that's one of my favorite populations.
yeah, I really like it. It's become very clear that that is one of my preferred populations as well. So.
Oh, great. Good.
In addition to working, I'm also a part-time grad student through St. Mary of the Woods College. So yeah, I really love it. That has been the highlight of my year so far. I started this past fall and it's been really awesome.
That's fantastic. My master's is from St. Mary in the Woods.
Oh, okay. There you go.
That thumbs up was just not just because
right.
St. Mary in the Woods, and you're close.
Yes, yeah, really close. So getting to the residencies has been like a no-brainer. It's been really nice. I feel as connected as, well, maybe more connected than some other people that are doing the distance program just because I am so close. I'm in
Right. That's fantastic. Yeah. And there's some great people there.
For sure, yes.
So I'm going to ask you, I don't know what you're doing, excuse me, I don't know what you're doing through that program, but I'm going to ask you to focus on your undergraduate when I'm talking to you.
Okay.
I don't know does Annette Whitehead-Plew teach a course there?
At St. Mary of the Woods, she does. I have not yet had a course with her.
Okay.
She does.
Okay, good, because she'll put ideas in your head that I don't want to know about yet.
Right, yep. I only know of her. Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be great ideas. Ideas, but I want to know what you got from Radford, so.
Yes, for sure.
So you said you've been practicing for about a year now?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I've been certified since February of 2016.
Okay, great. Okay. So I'm as I glance over here, that's when I'm looking at my questions to keep me on track so we don't just go off on tangents. So how do you define culture?
I would define it as a set of beliefs, maybe your environment that you use to define yourself as a person. It might be something that includes your race or your religion, but it's a combination of all of these things that you use to define yourself. And it might unite a group of people together as well.
Mm-hmm. So culture might unite a group of people, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's great to hear what people's definitions are, because there's no right definition. So it's fun to hear what people say. Yeah. So you said a little bit of things. You said race. It could include race and.
I think so. I think culture can include race. Culture and race can go hand in hand for sure. religion, sexual orientation, anything that you could possibly use to define yourself as a person, I think could be included in your culture. You could be a part of that culture.
Okay. Yeah. I was trying to, one of my questions is what groups do you consider, when you think about culture? That sounds like you.
So, race, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, country of origin, so many things, socioeconomic class. It could even be culture as far, when I think of it, as far as like what part of the United States you might live in. Like there's definitely, coming from the East Coast, there's definitely a more Midwest culture here than and that I wasn't used to when I got here. So it could be a lot of different things.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, so then the word, we have AMTA, multicultural competencies, and I'm just curious what you understand that to mean, or how do you understand them?
My understanding is that, in our code of ethics, that we obviously are not supposed to discriminate based on any sort of cultural expression, any of the things I talked about before, race, religion, sexual orientation, all that kind of stuff. And it is our responsibility to be culturally competent as music therapists so we can work with all the diverse people that we work with.
And so what does culturally competent mean as you think of it?
I'm trying to think of this through my undergrad brain. I think being aware of other cultures first and foremost besides your own, being educated at least minimally. Hopefully you would educate yourself a little more if you came across a culture you didn't understand, or even if you didn't agree with. And
Okay, great. And when you think about educating yourself, do you think about musically or through other means, or both, or?
I think in all of those ways. When I encounter cultures that I'm not familiar with, I'll do research on the internet. I might research the kind of music that they use, depending on if it's something that's affecting my work and it's something that I need to know.
So have there been cases where you've said, oh gee, I do need to do some research on this particular culture? Have there been examples of that?
Yes, there have, especially one example that I can think of is with transgender people, which is something that I was not aware of, and not aware of in my undergrad, but I didn't know the kinds of issues that they ran into, especially in a musical context, because there's just so much that can go into that. So that was an example of something that I had to personally look into and see if there is any research on that kind of stuff, which there is. There's not a ton, but there's some.
Mm-hmm. Were there other examples, or is that the one that comes to mind?
That's the one that comes to mind that I feel like was most defining as far as like cultures that I certainly was not familiar with when I was an undergraduate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. That's a culture that I haven't thought about in a music context.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Yeah. So were multicultural competencies addressed in your program? And in what way?
I feel like the most where it was most addressed was in my clinical placements, because we did work with a variety of cultures just in the placements that Radford University had for the undergraduate students. I feel like that's where I had the most experience with it, because we worked, one thing that was most defining about where Radford is located is that there are areas that are pretty impoverished around the university, and we did work with people who were living in pretty severe poverty, which was that's another thing I could have brought up. That was something that I was not accustomed to growing up. I didn't grow up in poverty, so I don't know what that's like. So I feel like, yes, clinical placements is where I got the most education about different cultures. Yeah.
Okay. Was it taught in any classes or as well, or was it just mostly through that experience that you encountered it?
We definitely Yeah, now that I think of it, I have to like think back a little
That's
bit.
okay. I know it's, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So in our functional musical skills class, the professor that I had was pretty adamant that we use music from a variety of different types of people. I think it's really easy to get stuck in using music that is, produced, written, perhaps performed or sang by a white man or a white woman. And I think it's important to look at other, music from other kinds of people, and also music from other countries. I think is really important. And that was something that I feel like was stressed in my functional skills class. They really pushed us to make sure that we weren't just, only adhering to like these Western ideas of music that we have, that we had at least a little bit of experience and a little bit of repertoire in other countries' music.
Okay, great, great. So were there any other classes, or that was pretty much the?
Outside of that functional skills class and clinical practicum and what the education that comes along with that whole arena,
Right.
There was little.
Okay.
Little.
Okay. So there wasn't a conversation about power and oppression, or about that kind of
Not
social.
Not in my music. No, it's fine. That's a hard question for me to answer. Not in my music therapy coursework. I took general education classes where that was addressed.
And were those? So what were those gen ed classes?
I took a women's studies course that was very much focused on studying power and oppression.
And was that part of? Was that related at all to music therapy requirements, or was that something you decided to, was it a case of you had to take women's studies or gender studies or Africology, or was it just you decided to take it?
I just decided to take it. I think it was like a humanities credit that I needed to fulfill, and it was a class that I wanted to take, so it worked out in both ways.
Okay. So I'm looking at what else. Okay, yeah, so part of what I was looking at was trying to find where multicultural competencies were addressed, and it sounds like it really was focused in your functional music skills and then in your practicum.
Yes.
Do you know if your program assessed multicultural competencies, AMTA multicultural competencies?
If they did, I either don't recall it or it was very minimal.
Okay, that makes sense, and for a lot of it's actually interesting. I think often students don't know how they're being assessed on various things.
Yes.
And multicultural competencies is one of those that, well, maybe we were assessed, but I don't know. So
that's a project that I'm kind of working on right now, is how making students aware of the areas in which they are being assessed. And that's kind of funny that you bring that up.
Yeah. So this is students who you're working with?
No, I'm doing a project on gatekeeping practices in the field, and what the role of music therapy educators, and making sure that people who go into the field are people who are prepared to work with clients, and making the guidelines or the expectations of their students very, very clear, and how they're being assessed.
Very interesting and very needed.
Yes, I think so. I'm kind of discovering.
It's a case that you say, wait a minute, how did you get this far? And whatever that piece is that's missing, how do you get this far without that piece there?
Yeah, for sure. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I'm finding there is more of a need of it in the music therapy field. So, kind of funny that you bring that up. Sorry, that was a little unrelated.
No, that's okay. I think sometimes when we're listening for something, we hear it in,
yes, for sure.
So, So that you don't know how you were assessed on that. Okay. What do you think should be taught to undergraduates? If you were going to create your own undergraduate curriculum, what do you think undergraduates should be taught about multicultural competencies?
if I look back on it, I really wish there had been either a course or a section of a course where we really just focused on the music of other cultures, not necessarily just other countries' music, but like music that has been either adopted by other cultures or developed by other cultures. I really wish that I had had more experience with that. Maybe a section of a course or a semester or something like that.
So you wish there was more of that music component about different cultures.
Yes, for sure.
Is there anything that you sort of in retrospect feel like you missed or that you wish somebody had taught you? Or I don't worry, I won't tell your professors this.
No, it's fine. I'm trying to think. There are definitely a couple of areas. LGBT issues, I feel like, was very, very minimally addressed. Just going to a college somewhat in the South, there's definitely a culture around that. LGBT culture is very different in a small town in the South, I've noticed, than being in a larger city. Not like Indianapolis is huge or anything, but then being in a larger city, it's not as often talked about. I think it's treated a little more taboo where I grew up in Southwest Virginia. So that's something that I wish I had had more experience with in my undergraduate, and kind of exploring the music and the culture of LGBT people.
Okay. And so what you said something about that you're very aware of socioeconomic culture, sort of the culture of that difference. What other cultures were you sort of aware of in your undergraduate? Sort of what other things do you feel like you were exposed to or did come up?
Yes, so definitely socioeconomic class, age, just the culture of being older versus being younger. I had a lot of placements with elderly, geriatric, older people, and that was something that I got a lot of experience with in undergraduate. I felt like I had a much better understanding of the culture of, the baby boomers and the people that came before them coming out of my undergraduate coursework, just because I spent a lot of time with older people when my practicum.
So did you have much exposure to, were there groups where there were predominantly African American clients, or even partially some African American clients?
I really didn't have. They definitely were practicum placements where that would have been the experience and that would have been the demographic. That was not one of them that I had. No.
Okay. And any other either racial or ethnic minorities that you encountered?
I mean, yeah. Radford University and just Radford, Virginia is a predominantly white area. Like, there are very few minorities represented in that area, and if they are there, they're few and far between.
Right. That's part of why I asked, was because I think
you're absolutely
right. It's automatically going to be different than if you're in Philly, for instance.
Yes. Well, it's so different from Indianapolis. That was a little bit of a culture shock. Just, I'm like, it's not all white people all the time. I like it a lot. To be honest. Yeah.
And what client? I mean, what other populations have you become aware of that you said it's not all white people? Who else is it? Just sort of
definitely more African American people here. I've met a lot more Asian people here. A lot more Latino people here than where I grew up and where I came from.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking about Indianapolis. I think, I mean, and sort of in terms of religion, do you feel like you're still dealing with the same kinds of religions that you dealt with in where you grew up, or is there a difference in that too?
There's a little bit of a difference. I wouldn't say, it's still predominantly Christian people here, but if you go further than that, there are certainly more Catholic people in Indianapolis than where I grew up, and certainly more Jewish people as well, now that I think of it. It just makes me think of how totally not diverse. Southwest Virginia is in that regard. More Catholic people in Indianapolis, more Jewish people. I've met a lot more Latter-day Saints and Mormon people here than I had ever met in my undergraduate experience. Yeah, it's much more diverse in that regard.
Yeah, I was just curious what groups, and some of them have more implications musically than others. I think it also depends on, in the schools, you run into different things than you would, for instance, if you were in hospice. There's different music preferences and so forth. So yeah. So now you're dealing with the culture of school age children, which is different from what. Okay. Sorry, excuse me. My husband.
No worries.
So yeah, the school demographics of a school age population is different.
Yeah. I would argue that even autism can be considered a culture in some ways. It's not just a diagnosis, but there are so many people. And this is something I'm learning as I work with people with autism, is that a lot of people are using it as an identifier, and they're reclaiming that term, and it's kind of becoming their culture as well,
right.
Which I think is really interesting and cool.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we talk about deaf culture with a capital D,
right.
And I think that autism does create a similar. And then certainly there's a culture that parents of children who have autism have created with themselves. So yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that as a culture too. Yeah. So I'm just looking at what else. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to ask. I don't know if there was anything else.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I expected it to be on the phone for a bit longer, but if you have what you need, that.
No, right. No, I mean, I realized my interview of professors tends to be longer than of professionals. So
well, that would make sense. Yeah.
So yeah, well, and many professors have thought about it. That's not true of all professors, but in some cases they have, they've thought about it in more depth and so forth. So
good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Well, and it's also very interesting. It's very interesting though, to hear sort of on what aspect you're thinking of. Yeah. So yeah. So unless you have anything else that occurs to you, I'm looking at, and really was looking at how is culture addressed for you, for you as an undergraduate, and what did you?
I just think if there's anything else I feel like I should add. I don't think so. Yeah, I feel like I gave you a pretty good explanation of the sort of cultural training that we got at Radford. So
great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of your research. I wish you
absolutely. Well, and I will. So I do want the demographics. Did you send it already?
I did. I included it in that email with the informed consent.
Excellent. Okay, good. And then I, once I've gotten the interview transcript transcribed, I think I said that right. Once I have transcribed the interview, I may ask you to read it and make sure that it sounds like what you said, and if there's anything you want to add, so that I'm making sure I'm, accurately reflecting that.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, and just when you get to the point at St. Mary's of doing research, you should know that interview transcription is not a fast thing.
No. Oh my gosh. I took a counseling course last semester, and we did a video where we had to transcribe it afterwards, and yes, you're right. It's very time consuming. It's very hard to make sure you got everything.
Yeah.
I understand. I wish you the best.
Thank you. Well, I have somebody helping me on that part, so that's
good.
That's good. But yeah, so, and enjoy St. Mary of the Woods.
Thank you. Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Great program. Yeah. So great to meet you, and I will probably I'll see you at St. Mary in the Woods dinners.
Yes, absolutely. At conferences and all that good kind of stuff.
Right. In fact, we're now in the same region. So.
Oh, yeah, true.
So I will see you at conferences and so forth.
Yes.
when I'm presenting about this, you can say, yeah,
I was there.
I won't be able to say that because this is confidential, but you can say, oh, that's what she figured out. Thank you so much.
No problem, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.